It's about that time. The NFL has made its way to Indianapolis. Coaches and GMs and decision makers are all here as we get set for the 2018 NFL Combine. 336 former collegiate players will be here in Indianapolis this week to work out and, of course, get checked out, all eager to prove what they can do at the next level. It all gets started at Lucas Oil Stadium, but we say hello from inside the Indiana Convention Center, just adjacent to Lucas Oil Stadium on what turns out to be a beautiful, mild week. Not that it matters here in Indianapolis, but we'll take it. We're with you all week and weekend long. I'm Wendy Nix with Adam Schefter, Louis Riddick, and Bill Polian. We've got plenty to get to, including the schedule for this week, but we'll start already with some breaking news. Adam.
Well, moments ago, the New York Jets informed their one-time franchise player, Mo Wilkerson, that they were moving on from him. Not a big surprise that this move would come. It does free up salary cap space, and I think at this point in time, the Jets have decided to go in a different direction. They've released Mo Wilkerson. It'll be one more defensive lineman into the free agent market, but he comes with questions. He'll come with questions about what he produced for the Jets, but he did get that big contract when he was the franchise player, and in the Jets' eyes, did not play up to it.
Look, I think there's no question that Todd Bowles has put a premium on culture, a premium on people who want to do it the way he wants it done. He is someone who has told me that he really does like the composition of his team, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, with the inflection of youth that they've had on that side of the ball. They need to improve the offense, but he's very, very cognizant, very aware of the fact that he wants this team all rowing in the same direction. And if he has any indication that he doesn't feel like someone is, you're out of there.
Listen, it's funny you use the word culture. We've talked to several head coaches today, all of whom are trying to create, in some cases, a new culture. You will hear what Pat Shurmur in particular has to say about that as well. But as promised, here's a look at what to expect this week because we're just getting started. Here's the workout schedule. The running backs and offensive line take part in drills on Friday. A lot of eyes, of course, will be on this quarterback class. They work out on Saturday with the wideouts and tight ends also in action. Sunday features the guys in the front seven, and the DBs will round out the on-field workouts on Monday. You know, perhaps we say it every year, but this year in particular, I feel like anyway, so many fascinating storylines, and let's just go right down the line. Bill, what are you watching for this week?
Well, I'm looking at the quarterbacks because, you know, when you think about those that come here, those that get drafted and those that make it over the course of the last 10 years, they've made it at a rate of less than 20%. So this is a project fraught with difficulty. What we've got here is Josh Rosen from UCLA. He's the best pure thrower, and he's a guy who can make all the plays.
Yeah, my storyline this week is going to be Calvin Ridley, and it's going to be a twofold type of thing. Number one, just how big is he? What does his frame look like when he walks across the stage here during weigh-ins? And then just how fast is he? Because in a draft class right now where wide receiver is not a premium position in terms of having top-level prospects, Calvin Ridley can really help himself and really catapult himself up in the first round if he has a good showing there.
We talked about the quarterbacks. We talked about the wide receivers. Let's talk about the running back, Saquon Barkley, that many personnel men believe is the top-rated running back prospect since Adrian Peterson, and that includes Todd Gurley and Ezekiel Elliott and some of the great running backs that have come out in recent years. Saquon Barkley is a mixture of speed, athleticism, can catch, can move, and at a time where we've seen teams draft running backs high. The interesting thing will be Cleveland needs a quarterback. We have the Giants need a quarterback. The Broncos need a quarterback. Are these teams going to be willing to bypass a big need for a running back that is as good as Saquon Barkley?
Saquon Barkley's measurables, the first to come in, reportedly, by the way, 6 feet, 233 pounds. There will be more of those numbers coming in as we move along.
Check that box.
Check that box.
That works for you, Bill?
Yes.
That likely works, says the Hall of Famer on our set this afternoon. Well, you mentioned the quarterback. So some news in particular regarding one of the top quarterback prospects. Former USC quarterback Sam Darnold will participate in interviews and medical testing this week, but he will not throw here at the Combine. Instead, Darnold will wait and throw at his USC Pro Day on March 21st. Here's Hugh Jackson on Darnold's decision.
We wish he would throw, like to see him throw, but at the same time, there's going to be other time to have an opportunity to watch him work out and do those things. But again, do I wish he was throwing here this weekend? Yes, I do. To watch him compete with the other guys. But at the same time, that's not going to hinder us making a decision about what kind of player he is for our football team.
We've seen him throw on tape. He's going to have a pro day where we can see him throw. It's certainly nicer when they do throw. You know, the more exposures you have, the more times we see the player doing what he does. It helps, but, you know, I think times have changed, so some do, some don't.
So the last time we saw Sam Darnold, it was in the Trojans' 24-7 loss in the Cotton Bowl to Ohio State. He threw for 356 yards, but didn't have a single touchdown pass and threw a pick six in the second quarter. Not to mention the Buckeyes sacked him a whopping 8 times. So in some regards, you think he'd want to get back out there, but it's of course not the same thing when you're talking about guys you've never thrown to before. Bill, does this hurt him at all in the long run?
Not a bit. The most important thing is the individual workout that he will do for the teams that are drafting up high. That's a workout that the teams themselves script, not his agent. And so that's this positive workout without question.
Yeah, you know, and I agree with Bill. The only thing for me is that it's a little bit annoying and irritating when people do that, only because you've heard general managers and personnel people say all the time, it's not going to hurt you here, because everyone here is smart enough to realize you don't really have the rapport with some of these guys on the football field as far as timing and accuracy. But the best players usually wind up rising to the top in this kind of workout, and you see them kind of take it over. And you'd like to see him interact with some of the other players, so why not do it? To me, there's no downside to doing it.
The agents are the ones that
exactly,
okay,
which is
let me ask you
annoying
a question.
to me.
Have we ever seen, you men have been in those workouts before, have you ever seen a quarterback who's gone into these drills who has lit it up to the point where you say, I'm going to draft this guy in the first round, Bill? You tell me.
I have, and it's Jimmy Garoppolo, but the scouts knew about him long before he came here. It's the coaches and the media who don't know him. And so they begin the buzz, and that's how it happens. He was on everybody's draft board long before he came here and was scintillating. The only thing is that the media and the coaches saw him.
But my point is, though, look, there is no downside to throwing. There just isn't. So if you think you're protecting yourself in some way by not throwing, because have you ever left out here going, that guy can't play at all, I'm not going to draft him?
No,
even if a guy had a bad performance, you would sit there and go, well, we have plenty of season
wasn't great.
Exactly. So there's really no doubt. And Bill's exactly right. This is agents going, we're going to dictate this thing the way we want to dictate it. And our guy we already know is a top candidate, so we don't need to do this kind of thing. That's just, it's an annoyance. Throwing. There just isn't. So if you think you're protecting yourself in some way by not throwing, because have you ever left out here going, that guy can't play at all, I'm not going to draft him?
No.
Even
he didn't throw at the
Peyton Manning didn't throw. Andrew
we heard
didn't
of
throw.
him.
Matt Ryan didn't throw.
Yeah, no, listen.
Quarterbacks who got on, okay.
The list is
but it is an annoyance.
and there's plenty who have thrown.
Yeah,
correct.
It is an annoyance.
It's a push, and it
Whoa, I don't mean to get
annoys
all
Louis
worked up
Riddick.
here.
No, I'm good.
But blame the
Well,
agents.
here's the good news. We are going to move on to something that also annoys just about everyone. So this
catch rule?
This is universal. How did you guess it's the catch rule?
I never would have guessed that.
Yes, here we go. Stop me if you've heard this before, but here we go. The NFL Competition Committee has been unanimous, believe it or not, in their agreement that some of the most debated and controversial catches of recent memory were in fact caught. And you know what? That includes Des Bryant. That includes Calvin Johnson with the Lions in 2010. And look, they're trying this one more time. Adam, can you clear this up as we try to clarify the catch rule?
Well, this is a process, and it's a process that's ongoing, and they're meeting this week, the competition committee is, to see if they can find a way to simplify the rule, and they're going to continue meeting on this at the owners' meetings, and before that, the week before the owners' meetings, the competition committee gathers together this year in Palm Beach, Florida, and they're going to go over the rule. And I think the goal here is before or during the owners' meetings at the end of March in Orlando, that there will be a simplified catch rule, whereby Des Bryant would have caught it, whereby Calvin Johnson would have caught it. Jesse James would have caught it.
No,
I know
Jesse James will not be changed.
That will not be changed.
It will not be changed.
What will be the difference there, Bill?
He went to the ground. There's no way you could write a rule that makes Jesse James a completed pass.
What's the difference between that and Des Bryant and Calvin Johnson?
Des Bryant's a little different because Des Bryant was taking steps. You can argue that he had possession of the ball. It's the single most difficult play to call. No matter what you write, you're probably going to be 50-50 on that one. But Jesse James is clearly going to
I think
the ground.
clarifying what constitutes possession is exactly what we're talking about. What constitutes possession? Does it mean a catch plus 1 step, 2 steps? I think that's going to be where that's going to have to be clarified. So you have a difference between the Calvin Johnson catch, the Des Bryant catch, and the Jesse James catch.
Keep this in mind. We're talking about 4 plays, okay? There are thousands during the year. This is controversy is because of replay, number 1, and because of slow motion replay, number 2. Also, keep this in mind. Once a player is deemed to have possession, he is a runner. That's the definition, and that can't be changed. You can change how you define that, but once the guy is a runner, he's no longer protected as a defenseless player. Defenseless player rules are married to catch no catch, and you cannot separate them at the risk of going backwards in terms of safety rules.
So as a former member of the competition committee, what is this rule going to look like once they come up with the new language for it, which they will?
I think they're going to try and redefine what consists of a football act. There are 3 things, okay? You have to have 2 feet down.
Yep.
You have to have possession of the ball, and then there is a time frame between 2 feet down possession and when you can protect yourself. That's where you define defenseless player, and you can't ever get rid of that. So now you're down into a very small area. You got 2 feet down, you got possession of the ball, it's in your hands, and now when do you become a runner? That's where they will look at it. There's any number of ways. I've been talking to people for 2 months on this subject. There's any number of ways you can do it. You can count the number of steps after possession. You can say you can remove the Emmanuel exception, which says that the ball can hit the ground so long as you have
the
control.
Bird Emmanuel exception for the NFC Championship game against St. Louis.
That would eliminate, by the way, 90% of the controversial replays. But you got to remember that we're talking about replay that's done in super slow motion. That was never intended.
Yeah.
It was never intended. So, but the most important thing here is that a defenseless player is one who is not deemed to have been a runner. So you got to keep that in mind. Defenseless player protection is married to this rule. So you cannot make a change if you change the definition of a defenseless player.
And, Bill, you know this as well as anybody. There's coming up with the rule, clarifying the rule, and then there's the execution of the rule, which is a whole nother ball game. But to your point, replay, it just changed everything. They slow it down.
That's the easiest part to change because you can write it in such a way that the replay official may not reverse unless he has incontrovertible video evidence. And you can even say shall not reverse, which means or will not reverse. You can write it in an affirmative way that does not give him jurisdiction unless he has absolutely complete visual evidence.
Bill, you miss being on the competition committee?
I do greatly.
Listen, you're on our competition committee. Yeah, listen, just roll that tape back and Bill Foley will contribute. There it is, right?
Bill Foley has just solved the catch rule.
Listen, we should have just asked you in the first place. We've got a long way to go here in the next 90 minutes. Still ahead on NFL Live from Indianapolis, site of the 2018 NFL Combine. The Vikings have a decision to make at quarterback. We'll discuss their best options. And still to come, Doug Peterson.